So let's talk about 10 things that could absolutely ruin your cruise vacation, most likely even before you step on board. Now, I will admit, I have been guilty of committing some of these crimes against my cruise myself. So let's start right with number one, and that would be not checking the airfare or hotel prices to the cruise port before you book your cruise. Now, I just recently did that, I am paying for it out of pocket, because I'm going to be paying probably triple the price of the free cruise to get to the port and pay for a hotel the night before. So just make sure you do your research, because you may end up wanting to adjust your cruise day or cruise port based on the prices that you're getting to get there. Number two, not doing research on your cruise port or terminal. I'm talking about, like, how do you get there from the airport or wherever that you're coming in? Are you able to drive straight to there? Or are you going to be taking a flight in and then you maybe have an hour drive or some other way that you need to get there? Can you do it by taxi, train, bus, private car? How long is it going to take you? Are you concerned about getting stuck in traffic for hours? Also, are you going to need cash? Now, there are certain ports that I've been to. One is Civitavecchia, just outside of Rome. And I knew in advance, because I did my research, that I was going to need euros to pay for the drivers, and I needed exact change. And I most likely wouldn't find an ATM close by. So I made sure that I had exact change no matter what type of transportation I ended up taking from the train station to the cruise terminal itself. Because honestly, not doing research could actually cost you your whole trip. If you get to your airport or train station and then you realize that the cruise terminal is another hour or 2 hours away, or maybe there was planned construction and they're going to be closing down the highway that you need to take to get there, you could end up losing your cruise and missing the boat. Unfortunately, when I was traveling out of Civitavecchia, there was a planned strike at the airport in Rome that day. Now, I made it in at 7:30 in the morning, and the planned strike was at 10 a.m. So unfortunately, several of my fellow travelers who were coming from within Europe weren't so lucky. We had a couple people who almost missed the ship that was departing at 6 p.m. because they got caught in the pre-planned strike. So just be mindful that don't just think about U.S. problems. If you are traveling internationally, make sure you're just taking extra time to do your research before you get on board your flight or you get in your car to go to the destination. Number three is paying for your cruise fare in full too soon. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of times when you get closer to full payment date, the cruise line will start dropping the price of most cabins, especially if the ship really isn't filling up. Also, if you pay in full in advance, that may make you ineligible for any discounts you may get if you do see the price go down. Now, when I sailed on the Norwegian Prima out of Southampton, I ended up booking at a pretty costly, about $4,300 for the cruise. Now, I was traveling solo and I booked an inside cabin. And throughout my time after I booked it, I did notice that the price went down. So the first time I called, I got a refund for the difference in cruise fare. Now, the second time I saw the price go down pretty dramatically, about $1,000, was after I had made full payment, which was at the 90-day mark that I needed to do that. So 90 days prior to sailing, they had required me to pay in full, and then they immediately dropped the price after I paid in full. Well, Norwegian's policy, they don't always give you the difference in the cruise fare, but when I called, I was able to get the difference in cruise fare, but I could only get it as future cruise credit. So that meant in order to get that $1,000 difference, I had to then book a cruise on another Norwegian ship in the future, which I did end up doing. I ended up sailing the Norwegian Prima out of Galveston using that $1,000 cruise fare credit, and it pretty much almost paid for my cruise. Number 4 on the list, not choosing the right cruise line for you. And what I mean by that is not choosing a cruise line that fits your personality. Do you like a loud cruise ship? Do you like a boisterous cruise ship? Are you okay with hundreds of children running around at all hours of the night, filling up all of the pools? Are you okay with music on the pool deck at its highest volume all of the time? Well, then Royal Caribbean may be for you, because honestly, when I sailed Royal Caribbean 4 times, the number one adjective that I would use to describe that cruise line is loud, because everything was loud all of the time and it was always very busy. Now, I know that's not everyone's experience, but that has just been my experience when I've sailed Royal Caribbean. Now, I've recently sailed Princess, and I have sailed them many times in the past, and I would say that Princess is kind of a chill vibe. It isn't your grandma's cruise anymore, so it has modernized with age, and I found it very pleasant, but there was still enough activity to keep me engaged, and I absolutely love the dance parties in the piazza, but also I could walk away from that. I could get away from that. I could go out on the pool deck and have a nice quiet evening if that's what I wanted. So it was loud and boisterous and celebratory in moderation. Now I'm getting ready to do MSC and Carnival Cruise Lines, so I'll have to see if those cruise lines really are for me. Now I did Virgin Voyages as well, and I have to say that so many people say instantly that Virgin is not for them, and I have to beg to differ. I do not know why people have such a distorted view of what Virgin Voyages is, but I thought it was pretty darn amazing. I thought the restaurants were fantastic. I thought the atmosphere was great. The ship was beautiful. The staff were wonderful. Now, are the rooms a little weird? Yes. Are they a little uncomfortable? Yes, except the hammock. The hammock was everything. I would go back on board just to spend a week in that hammock any day of the week and to eat at those fabulous restaurants that you don't have to pay more for. So number 5 on the list is choosing the wrong travel companion. So if you are a person who likes to solo cruise or maybe take family and friends with you, make sure that they are compatible with your travel style and that you don't have to worry about hurting their feelings or people getting bent out of shape or people just absolutely disrupting your cruise, especially if you're sharing a cabin with somebody. If you are a light sleeper who needs complete darkness and complete silence in your cabin, but you pair up with somebody who pays no mind to that, who chitter chatters until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, who bangs around in the room, who turns all the lights on, then you're going to have a miserable time. So make sure that you choose the right travel companion for you when you go on a cruise. Number 6 on the list is going to be not arriving early if it makes monetary sense for you. Now, what I mean by that is I do highly recommend that you get to the cruise port the night before if you're not within a relatively close distance. And even then, sometimes you have to be concerned because maybe there's an accident or they close the road. So don't leave too late and risk missing your cruise. Now, unfortunately, there are some times when this does not make monetary sense. For instance, I'm taking a very deeply discounted cruise that's costing me $338 in February of 2027. Well, the airfare to fly in the day before was $500 more one way, and then a hotel room was going to be about $300. So if I'm dumping in an additional $800 into my trip because I'm coming in a day early, I would actually rather risk the $300 that I've paid for that cruise by risking arriving late and missing my cruise than arriving early and paying an extra $800. Sometimes it just doesn't make monetary sense. And you could say, oh, well, Amy, you could get travel insurance. Well, I don't know. Would that cover it? The way insurances have loopholes nowadays, I can't guarantee that the insurance that I would choose that would be a reasonable price would actually cover an airline delay for me missing my cruise. And at the end of the day, if I'm paying $150 for the insurance and my cruise is only $330, how am I making out ahead? Because the effort that I'd have to go through to prove my airline delay and get my money back from the insurance agency would kind of be a wash at that point. Number 7 on the list, not having the required documents to sail or having a document that is expired. Make sure, people, that you are checking thoroughly with the cruise line. If it doesn't say or it's ambiguous or you are any way confused about what you need to board and sail on that cruise ship, just call customer service and speak with them. Like double, triple check, make sure, can I sail with a driver's license, a state ID, and a birth certificate, or do I have to have a passport? Can I use a passport card, or do I have to have the passport booklet? How long does my passport have to be valid after the sailing of the cruise ends? Like some countries require at least 6 months. Do I have to have a stampable page on my passport, or my passport book is filled? Can I still use that? So these are the questions that you really need to make sure that you have answered before you leave home. Weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. You need to make sure that you're checking this. I honestly would do it as soon as you book your cruise. Do not wait, to make sure that you have time to get the required documents that you need to be able to get on the cruise ship in case you have to order anything. Also too, don't put your passports, your birth certificate, your driver's license in the luggage that you're giving to the porter to check for you to take on the cruise ship. Because let me tell you, most likely you'll probably get denied from boarding. And it may take them quite a long time to get your luggage back off that ship and get it to you. So if you have a flight that requires a passport or ID that you no longer have with you and you need to get home, you're probably out of luck unless you can find an emergency passport service, which, there's not really that many of them, and you'd have to be able to get an appointment. So just be mindful, make sure your documents are the right documents that you need, and that your documents are not expired, and that they extend, I would say, to be safe, at least a minimum of 6 months past your disembarkation date. Number 8 on the list, picking the wrong room for you. What is it that you want out of your room? Are you solely focused on the view that you're going to get if you're getting a balcony cabin? Are you solely focused on the space of the room because you're getting a suite cabin? Or are you looking for a quiet space? Make sure that the room is in the location that you want it to be. Are you wanting to be closer to dining at one end of the ship? Are you wanting to be closer to entertainment or the pool at the other end of the ship? Is it too far away from the buffet? Are you too far away from the casino? Is the room that you're in going to be noisy because it's under the gym or under a nightclub? Is your room, your balcony cabin, like 2 floors up from the smoking area? Now, sometimes I know that can be hard to pinpoint on a ship, but I just saw a friend's video recently where she booked a cabin and it was right over the smoking area. I honestly would not have survived. So if you're trying to save money and you book a guaranteed cabin because honestly that's the cheapest, do not have any delusions that you're going to be in a cabin that is not going to have at least a problem, right? Because the cabins that you're going to get put in, most likely, probably 99% chance that you're going to get put in a cabin that nobody else wanted to book, because either location, it's too far at the front of the ship and you're going to have a lot of noise from the anchor and movement when it's going up and down over the waves, or it's all the way at the end of the ship and it's under the nightclub. So just be mindful that the location of your room can be very important. Oh, one of the things also to keep a lookout for is when you're looking at the cruise map, the deck plan of the ship, make sure that I usually try to have a cabin that has at least one floor of rooms above me, 1 floor of rooms below me. And then I also try to make sure that I'm not next to a big open empty space on the map, because that is usually a crew area. If you are right next to an elevator or right next to a stairwell, you're most likely going to be hearing doors slamming, especially if you're right next to the area where the crew is coming in and out, like the room stewards or room service. You're going to hear that door all night long at all hours of the night. So just keep that in mind when you're booking your room. Number 9 on the list is overspending on your cruise. If you are blindly booking shore excursion after shore excursion, specialty dining after specialty dining, you're leaving extra tips galore on all of the drinks, you don't have a beverage package and you're ordering 20 drinks a day, you're gambling in the casino and you're charging it all back to your room, but you are not being mindful of keeping tabs on your tab. If you're not checking your folio or your account balance and you're just blindly spending, you could be in for a very rude awakening when you get to the end of the cruise and you have to pony up all of that money. So you need to make sure that you kind of have an idea of your budget for the cruise and you keep a tab on what you're charging back to your room. Now, most cruise lines, you can check that routinely, regularly in the app. You can check it on your TV. You can go to guest services and ask them. They're always going to have an accounting of your account. Funny how that works. They're always going to know how much you owe them at all times. So just make sure that you're keeping a tab on it and that you are spending within your boundaries and within your budget. And like I said, be really mindful of gambling in the casino and charging back to your room and getting caught up in the hype of chasing points. And the next thing you know, you've spent a couple $1,000s on the machines. So don't let that ruin your cruise vacation. So number 10 on the list, bringing the wrong power adapters or not bringing any at all. Now, this may seem a little random, but hear me out because this just happened to me. So I sailed recently out of Civitavecchia, which is the port just an hour north of Rome. So I needed to come in the night before to make sure that I wasn't missing my cruise ship. And I came in, I dropped my luggage at the hotel and then went about my day enjoying the city of Rome. I got back to my hotel, started unpacking my luggage, went to plug in my CPAP and realized, lo and behold, I accidentally left my Italian European adapters at home. I don't know what I was thinking. I was in a hurry. I was running late to get out the door to get my Uber to the airport, and I just totally forgot to grab the bag of adapters that I had. So I had to spend my first night without my CPAP, and I was pretty darn miserable. But I also then couldn't charge my phone, I couldn't charge my iPad, I couldn't charge my camera. So all of these other things I just had to do without charge for the night. Now, luckily, I always carry a battery backup, and it was the battery backup that I had with me was at 100%. So I did end up charging my main phone because that had like my boarding documents for the cruise. It had everything I needed. It had my train ticket and all of that good stuff, but I didn't have enough juice to get anything other than like half a charge on my camera. I certainly didn't have the ability to charge my Apple Watch or my iPad. So I just had to kind of limp through until I got on board the ship. Now, luckily on the ship, there were two US plugs on the ship, but all the other sockets that were in there were either UK or European. And I have adapters for those, but I completely forgot them at home. So don't ruin your own trip by forgetting your adapters and then being in a location where it's either difficult or impossible to get the adapters that you need. So thank you for joining me today and stopping by If You Seek Amy K, where I love to cruise and I love saving money and I love sharing with you how to earn free or deeply discounted cruises by gambling in the onboard casino. So make sure you check out some of my other videos where I recently earned a free cruise on Princess Cruise Line, and I'll be sailing that upcoming soon in October of 2026. And make sure you check out my live stream, which is usually every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I will put out a notice if for any reason I'm not able to make it, but I would love to see you there. So happy cruising, and I hope to see you out there on the high seas.